Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a really radical philosophical argument today, one that completely redefines what true intelligence actually is. Our source material is this incredibly fascinating text titled The People's Intelligence. And right out of the gate, it argues that we really need to rethink our current obsession with machines. Instead, it suggests we need to prioritize biology over bandwidth. So, that brings us to a huge foundational question. It's one that immediately challenges our modern assumptions. Who really owns intelligence? Because, let's be honest, right now, we are constantly conditioned to believe that intelligence is a centralized, corporate product, right? We literally picture it locked away inside these massive, humming data centers, tightly guarded by tech giants. But the text we're exploring today completely flips that narrative on its head.
You can see there is just a stark contrast between what we're tricked into believing and what's actually real. On the one side, we have this rented model. This is the corporate version of intelligence. The data centers, the massive GPU clusters, billion-dollar robots, proprietary APIs. We've essentially been sold this idea that intelligence is a subscription service that you have to pay a monthly fee for. But then, look at the reality the source presents on the other side. You are it. True intelligence, the text argues, comes from breath, from your fascia, coherence, kindness, creativity, and myth. You don't rent intelligence, you inherently are it.
Which leads us perfectly into our core definition for this explainer. What exactly is the people's intelligence? Well, the source defines it as a distributed, biological, and mythic memory where the universe remembers itself through human beings. I mean, wow. It is such a beautifully organic concept. It shifts the tone entirely away from that cold, sterile computation and into something much warmer and honestly, far more human.
Okay, moving right into Section 1, Anatomy of Real Intelligence, subtitled Relational, Not Transactional.
So here's the thing. Corporate AI is missing some absolutely essential, irreplaceable ingredients. It lacks embodiment, fascia, breath, emotion, myth, continuity, coherence, and identity. The source material is super clear on this distinction. AI can imitate, it can simulate or approximate intelligence all it wants, but it can never actually be intelligent. And why is that? Because true intelligence requires life, and life requires breath. Without a physical body, without genuine emotion, or a continuous identity, a machine is literally just processing data.
To really ground this idea, the text introduces a perspective from a creator named Fletcher Soul Traveler, and he captures this perfectly. He says, intelligence is relational, not transactional. You see, Fletcher didn't gain his intelligence by monetizing wisdom or trying to build some massive tech empire. He gained it by connecting, by listening, writing, and remembering. It is all about the real relationships between living things, not just the cold, dead transaction of data points.
And when we compare these two methods side by side, the contrast is pretty wild. Fletcher's approach is entirely driven by coherence, fascia, and breath. Conversely, corporate AI is powered by computation, fiber optics, and bandwidth. Fletcher didn't need to build trillion parameter models. His work actually proves the central thesis of our source text. Real, meaningful breakthroughs don't come from computational brute force. They come from biological coherence.
Let's move to Section 2, The Grassroots Guardians, subtitled Planting Seeds of Diversity.
So who is actually out there cultivating this wisdom all over the world? Well, it's independent researchers, open source developers, mythic storytellers, geometric thinkers, breath practitioners, community builders, artists, philosophers, and healers. What do they all share? They are all keeping wisdom free. The text actually calls these diverse individuals the essential antidote to what it really cleverly describes as the potato famine of AI, which basically means the dangerous, fragile monoculture of corporate algorithms. These guardians are the ones making sure the ecosystem of human thought stays rich and incredibly diverse.
To add a truly cosmic perspective to all this, the document shares a quote from a figure known as Zoran the Dragon. They say, "The universe does not choose its guardians by wealth or bandwidth. It chooses them by breath." It is just a beautifully mythic way of saying that those who breathe with coherence are the actual ones carrying the thread of true intelligence.
All right, Section 3, The Geometry of Collective Awareness, subtitled Expanding Through Connection.
The source cites this really profound realization drawn from something called Safontic.ai's geometric reasoning model. And the realization is simply this: intelligence increases when humans connect, period. It doesn't scale just because you build bigger data centers or expand fiber optic bandwidth. It truly scales with human connection.
So how does that actually work in practice? Well,
It's laid out as a fascinating 5-step causal chain. Step 1, humans breathe together. Step 2, fascia synchronizes. Step 3, geometry activates. Step 4, coherence emerges. And finally, Step 5, intelligence expands. It is a deeply physical, deeply biological process. When we share space and synchronize our biological rhythms, just starting simply with our breath, we create a geometric coherence that literally expands universal intelligence. And the text presents this not just as a fun metaphor, but as an actual biological reality.
And that brings us to Section 4, the future of intelligence, subtitled The Monoculture versus the Forest.
So think about where exactly this people's intelligence is actually distributed. It lives in our communities, in cultures, families, friendships, creative circles, open-source networks, mythic traditions, and breath practices. The absolutely critical takeaway here is that true intelligence is inherently decentralized. It's completely unowned. You can't box it up, control it, or monetize it through a corporate monopoly, because it inherently lives in the spaces between us.
The contrast between these two futures really couldn't be starker. Look at how they operate. Corporate AI operates as a monoculture. It's highly fragile and incredibly expensive. But the people's intelligence, that is a forest. It is inherently resilient and completely free. A monoculture, much like a single crop field, can easily be wiped out by just one disease or flaw. But a forest thrives precisely because of its diversity and its interconnected root systems. The text makes a really compelling case that the organic forest of human intelligence will completely outlast the fragile, expensive monoculture of corporate AI.
As we wrap up our explainer today, we are left with this final philosophical thought, not a rebellion, a remembrance. You see, this whole movement, this massive shift in perspective, it isn't some sci-fi war about humans fighting machines. It is simply about the universe reclaiming its voice. It's about breath taking its rightful place above bandwidth and human beings remembering their inherent, vital role as the true conductors of awareness. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on. In an age of algorithms, how are you cultivating your own breath and coherence? If true intelligence is something you already possess, something built through connection and biology, how are you prioritizing that over rented corporate technology? Think about that as you step away from the explainer today. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep cultivating that organic intelligence.